Well, to quote the great Brent Musburger, you are looking live. Ladies and gentlemen, we are operating without a net. We've gone live, so to those of you who have joined us live on YouTube or LinkedIn, welcome. I guess, Curtis, you wanted to do this one live to add even more of a risk factor to Josh and I making fools of ourselves, because we have no idea what we're about to get ourselves into, and only you do.
Only I do. Yeah, I'm putting you both in the hot seat today, and we're going to see how this plays out. You both your heads there will be sweating by the end. We might start to get a little shiny.
I got a glare already, so
yeah. But I'm excited to welcome back and Josh Donnelly, and that was a big reason why I wanted to do this today, because if you're watching or listening now and you didn't get to check out Josh's episode in season 1, which was when I was first getting to know Josh, we had him on and really surprised me with this concept, which was very close to the concepts and frameworks that you work from, Tom, which is funnel-driven storytelling. And Tom, why don't you have a name for your framework? Josh has got this really cool name, funnel-driven storytelling. And I'm like, yeah, Tom has this framework. It's why, how, what.
That's
like,
it.
Where's our,
That's the name. It is what it says on the tin. Why, how, what? Yeah.
WHW.
People they're going to resist it. They're going to forget to do it. So it's like, I'm just naming it what it is, so people remember to lead with why.
Yeah. Well, Josh, that was a fun episode, and we went off in a couple different directions, and by the end of it, I think the two of you, which I thought was fun for me, was watching your creative brains sell paper plates on that episode. It's like, this is not how you sell paper plates. This is how you sell paper plates. And it really was spot on. And since then, gosh, that goes back almost 18 months ago, but really since then, it did hit home for me in when I have conversations with clients and I look at their homepages or, anything they're doing from a messaging perspective. What are they saying? Where is it at in the journey? All those types of things. So anyway, Josh, welcome back on the show.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for taking the invite. What's new in your world? Anything new?
Oh man, what's new in my world? My world's been busy, but that's a good thing.
Tell everybody what it is you do real quick.
Yeah, so I own a web design and marketing agency. We focus on brand storytelling. So we do the actual web design and the build out of the websites, but we do it from sort of a marketing perspective. So it's not strictly just like, okay, tell us what to build and we'll build it. It's actually putting together sort of the guide rails of what does a proper story for this brand look like? And then usually that evolves into sort of other brand peripherals as well. So we build the site, and then do we need to do a video for the about page, and do we need to do, creative for the ads that lead to the website, and so on and so forth. So it's sort of this bigger picture process, right, where we sort of help coalesce a brand and what they're trying to accomplish, but it's all rooted in, or at least starts from the website and then spokes out from there. So that's what we do. That's what I do.
All right, we might talk a little bit about AI yet. Are you concerned at all that AI is going to be replacing you soon?
I don't know if concern's the right word. I think right now it's a great tool set that, I don't deny there are some incredible strengths. And so I'm not hey, it's never coming for my job. It's how does this adapt into, I think, what all of us do, right? Like, how do we utilize this as a tool in the toolbox moving forward versus just being scared of it or saying that it's not coming for our jobs? Because I do think if we do that, we're going to be sorely surprised. So,
yeah.
Remind people, Josh, if you don't mind, real quickly, what is funnel-driven storytelling?
Yeah, well, it's funny-driven storytelling too. It can be. No, funnel-driven storytelling is this concept. It's basically, it's less of a structure or a template and more of just a process, sort of like set the mind straight on and this is probably what we're going to look at today as we dive into things. But it's how do we sort of, if somebody says, build me a website, and we know a little bit about the brand, how do you know what to put where? Why are there 15 sections on the homepage? What do each of those 15 sections say? And so funnel-driven storytelling sort of creates this, again, the guardrails of a brand storytelling process that we can use specifically on the homepage and then sort of throughout the site. So what does that mean? Well, a marketing funnel can be broken down into sort of 4 simple stages, which is awareness, consideration, preference, and then conversion, purchase, lead, whatever that conversion might be, right? And so if we take that same approach to building and designing and creating storytelling on a homepage, you have awareness, it's positioning, it's a hero statement that focuses on sort of the benefit versus just like, hey, we sell paper plates. No, tell me why we need the paper plates. So you start with awareness, what we do, get into consideration, what we offer and what the benefits of that are. Preference, that's sort of your storytelling, that's the meat and potatoes of what we're doing, and then conversion is a final call to action. So if we follow that, design can take all sort of shapes and forms, and storytelling can look many different ways. But if it follows that, you're sort of flowing into a proper storytelling, or at least a very natural feeling storytelling process. It's the same way that you would have a conversation with, a buddy about a brand. We don't realize that's how we do it, but we tell people what it is, what it does, why it matters to us, and how they can, get in on it too, right? And it's the same thing building and designing a web page. So yeah, that's funnel-driven storytelling.
And that aligns with my apparently poorly named structure of why, how, what, because what I find is the inclination many brands have is to start spewing out the products or the features, and they're not talking to benefit. You just said at the top end that an awareness, usually the motivator is some sort of why. It's a pain or an aspiration. And they haven't yet identified that they need your what yet. So what we're trying to do with why, how, what is similar, like guide that user through the funnel that will ultimately lead to what you want, which is the conversion or the sale or whatever it is. But you can't, as you always say, Curtis, you can't ask for that as the first step, right? That's like the last step. And the problem when people just jump right into sort of lead gen, if they don't have their story straight, is that it's just saying it's asking for the first date before you've even met the girl, since we all shared our first date prior to jumping on here. So
we did. So if you didn't catch that, I'm sorry, it won't be in the final recording. So
yeah,
you had to be live for that. So for you both, I have a brand to present. I woke up one morning and there was an idea there in my head about a software application that solves a problem near and dear to my heart. And I thought, hey, what if I brought Josh back on with Tom and we tried to build storytelling, but let me flush out what this brand looks like myself first and how I would approach it, and then see how you guys would change it. Just like a customer, when they come to us and say, hey, man, we're really struggling to get leads. We need you to do some advertising. Can we do some Google ads? Can we do some LinkedIn ads? Can we generate some leads? And then we look at their website and we say, oh, I'm not sure you're ready to bring people to your website yet. We might want to make sure we're actually connecting with them appropriately first, which is this storytelling and messaging that we talked about. So I'll unveil the homepage for you. So
I'm excited.
We're going to, for the sake of this little workshop we're going to do here.
Yeah, I should note, just quick caveat, that my framework works mostly on paper plates. So I don't know if it'll work here, but let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot.
That's why we're sweating. Hey.
So, yep. So this is Lead Mosaic, your all-in-one lead journey intelligence platform, where you can track leads, score intent, visualize funnels, and boost conversions. Right? As we scroll down the page, everything you need to understand your leads. It's got a lead funnel visualizer, it scores, it's got some AI attribution, analytics, it integrates with your CRM, and then maps out customer journeys for you. It's got some outstanding reviews.
Wow,
we understand where our leads are at in the funnel, prioritize high intent prospects, improve ROI. Let's try it free for 14 days. It's a nice little dashboard. We're a community driven by the pursuit of smarter marketing, empower marketers with tools that simplify their workflows and make an impact. redefine how business connect with their customers.
This is
Integrate
a well thought
effortlessly
out.
with your CRM.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well thought out. And then a little join our community. We've got some get starteds. Now we just have a homepage here. We can't go any deeper. I don't have a features page and about page, but I've got some of this company history here in my head. You guys are welcome to ask me some questions, but let's get some first impressions. Let's say you guys were, came across this website in some sort of discovery. What are your first thoughts?
That I don't want to call your baby ugly.
It's not ugly?
Well, I'll just go first. I think you've fallen into the tar pit. You've led with what this is, and I have no idea why I should care. Right. So I don't even think this is for me. So I would not even spend any time on this website because I don't need an all-in-one lead journey intelligence platform. Sounds good. Sounds expensive. Sounds like something for the data nerds, but I just don't get it. So sorry. That's what I think of your baby, Josh.
Yeah, this is a great example of you are addressing the top of the funnel, which is awareness, right? Okay, what is it? It's an all-in-one lead journey intelligence platform. But does that resonate with the user, right? If somebody was talking to a friend about this, at dinner, how are they explaining it? It's probably not that way. They're probably saying, depending on how this works, and we can get into some of that, like logistically, we can have a conversation around it, but they might be saying something like, oh, you'll never guess how we increased revenue last month, right? So, okay, do we lead with, increase ROI? Like, what is that? Instead of selling the feature or just leading with this what, can we sell the benefit, the outcome? What is it that somebody actually gets from that? And that should be, again, from the hero section, that awareness stage is just high level. It's like, what does it matter? But like, this is a big brand, but you look at like Coca-Cola and they're not like, oh, it's a refreshing can of high fructose corn syrup and whatever. Like, no, they lead with like, hot day, great refresher, right? It's like you want that thing because of how it makes you feel or what the outcome is. And so can we focus on that in the hero section? So what I do like is track leads, score intent, visualize funnels, and boost conversions. But that headline, can it piggyback off of that, but talk more to what the outcomes are, the why I need this? Do you know what I mean? And then that's what we're doing there at the top of the funnel is going to play into everything else, right?
And I think you had some examples of companies that do this well. Do you not?
I do. Yeah. You want me to share my screen here?
Yeah.
Why
don't you share those?
I can absolutely do that. So
and no pressure. No one's watching. We maybe have one person.
Hey,
so.
that's still pressure. There's still like a live recording
worries.
icon here. So that's pressure. So let's jump first to like literally the tool that we're using to do this podcast right now. So, I was on their site to get ready for this podcast and I'm looking through this and I'm like, man, this is actually great storytelling. They could very easily say, video podcasting platform or some sort of just very literal what it is, right? But instead, they lead with a headline here that is both aspirational and a clear benefit. Create your best content yet. Well, that's what I'm looking to do, whether it's a podcast or just like live interviews or whatever it is that we're trying to do. Ultimately, people who are doing this are trying to create the best content. So that speaks to the user. Then they get into some of, again, high level, this is awareness, but they do get into some of that high level what, right? It's not detailed what, it's not overdoing the what before you get into the why, but it is the, okay, how am I going to create my best content yet? Well, with this all-in-one studio to record high quality, edit in a flash, go live with a bang, etc. So I've got the what it's going to do for me, but more so the big picture of why I'm here, which is to create my best content yet. And then we can talk more about what's below the fold here, but they do get into those benefits that they outlined. Record it, edit it, go live, etc. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Could I just opine on this as well? So a couple things that they do well here is, in addition to everything you said, is they've mapped the message to the intended user. Anyone who's going to buy Riverside subscription considers themselves a content creator. It's a fancy way of saying I make podcasts or videos or whatever. So the words are speaking in the user's language. Create your best content yet. The other thing is, I would suggest that the payoff is less a what, although there's some what language in there for sure, but it's a how. It's one, it's all in one. Two, it's high quality, which we know Zoom is not typically, right? And go live with a bang, right? So this is the how. All with a trial is that say all that works with you. All with AI, sorry, that works with you. So there's another how. And then as you scroll down to your point, Josh, then it's what can I do with this thing? Record, right? So scroll down if you don't mind. Yep, record it. Boom. So then this is still how they're segueing from how to what. So everything you can do in the platform.
And they do a great job. And this is kind of what I was hitting at earlier, where you'll notice that the sites that I have pulled up here that we'll look at the other ones in a moment, they don't all look the same. This isn't like a rigid template, but it's how do you unpack this storytelling, and then you apply the visuals to it, as you go. Riverside does a great job. They basically have these big individual sections for each of their individual, both features and benefits, which is the editing, the go live, right, the recording, all of those things, and they have these giant sections. Those are the storytelling pieces, but they all, to your point, piggyback off of what they introduced in that awareness section. Now, something that you'll notice, and I would actually, as we start getting back into lead Mosaic, like, how do we craft this story? I would bring your social proof up. Maybe not the testimonials necessarily, but are there things that we could bring up? 5-star reviews, things like that could help tell the story. What Riverside and a lot of these others do right off the bat is they lead with some sort of initial social proof to tell you that you're in good company, right? Before they even get into the rest of the storytelling. So let's go ahead. We'll jump over to Guideline here, which is sort of a modern 401k investment, platform. They're a little more literal.
Josh,
go ahead. Yeah.
Before you go there, let me add, and maybe we just do two of these because we'll want to go back to. So do your next best one, because we'll go back to lead Mosaic, and actually I'll let you guys explore some ideas. But would you say, Tom and Josh, that on Riverside, that statement puts their customer as the hero? Because you're creating your 100%. Best content yet, right? They're not the best software for X, Y, and Z. You're going to get to create your best content.
It could have very well been the best podcasting production software on the planet.
Yep.
Right?
They could make that claim. They could make that claim. Yep. But they don't.
No. They are the hero. Right. Going back to our Star Wars analogy, right? Luke Skywalker is the person getting ready to sign up for some podcasting software. They've just positioned themselves as Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon to get you there.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. So
give us one more, Josh.
Yeah, so I think Guideline, theirs is a little looser, right? They're very literal here in their hero and their awareness, their introduction, the way your 401k should be. But they're playing to, again, they're talking to, whether it's small business owners or whatever, they are talking to individuals that are, their whole thing is that they're an alternative modern version of a 401k with a phenomenal, software platform to manage it. And so they're basically playing to that again with the customer as the hero, saying we can solve your 401k problems. Now, again, they're much more literal in what they're doing. Get smart automation, direct payroll sync, and award-winning support for teams of all sizes. But again, they're speaking to those pain points, right, with smart automation and support for small business owners. And as you scroll down, you actually see them featuring each of their benefits sort of in this tabbed format here. What are the benefits? Well, it's seamless payroll, it's stress-free compliance, it's automated admin, and then it's these guided investments. And then they have more below the fold to help reinforce that storytelling. They have social proof with things like this right here, where they have the actual testimonials listed out. But they do a really good job of trying to consolidate sort of a complex, old school banking industry. You don't expect it to be this clean, modern storytelling. They try to consolidate that down into what I would consider funnel-driven storytelling as well, starting with that awareness, going into our consideration, why do we need it, and then ultimately culminating at the end here with a call to action, your new 401k right this way, right? Very much speaking to the user and leading them down a path of conversion, right?
Yep.
What are your thoughts, Tom?
So I think I agree with everything you said. It's a good segue back to lead Mosaic, because there's a question in my mind that always comes up before why. And it's a question that people, I think, also forget to define clearly, and that's who.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to evaluate whether this is effective depends on, are they talking to the plan administrator? Are they talking to a small business owner? Are they talking to somebody in HR? Because those are all three different types of what we'd call archetypes, right? Character personas, whatever you want to use. So we have to map to that. So if you want to go back to lead Mosaic, my first question for you is going to be, Curtis, who is this for?
Yeah, Josh, leave your whiteboard open, because maybe we'll whiteboard a little bit there.
Yep.
So for me, at least, and how I started it as an agency, I'm constantly trying to stitch together tools and data, CRMs, ad platforms, spreadsheets, to just get an understanding of where our leads came from and what led to a conversion, what didn't, all those types of things. It was a lack of clarity in that data. So who this is for, I would say would be any performance marketer that exists either in an agency or working within a company whose responsibility it is to generate leads, right? From a marketing perspective. And they're trying to get a handle on those things.
Gotcha.
And then, so I guess ultimately,
Is this a senior person? So go ahead, Josh.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, is like, so piggybacking off of that, not only who is it, but like ultimately what, so it's an all-in-one lead journey intelligence platform, but what does that mean? Like, what is that actually doing for this person? And then I guess in addition to that, as Tom was just asking, like more specifically, how do we talk to that person about what this is, right? And what it does?
Right. So
And
you
I was
guys are
gonna
going to
add
treat
real
me as
quick,
the customer.
What's that?
You guys are going to treat me as the customer now.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So
you feel free to ask me questions. Yep.
let me just ask a clarifying question. Is the person that you're selling this to the user?
Yes.
Okay. And is that a person leading a team, or is that person that is in the analytics every day and needs to report them out?
I would say it's the lead of that team. So it could be an agency owner, but they see this as an issue. They're not retaining clients, or they're not able to show proof to activities they're doing. So it's going to be an agency owner. Or, yeah, I think in an organization, it could be a marketing director, biz dev, somebody on the marketing side whose responsibility it is to generate leads. It's not going to be the copywriter, the person doing the social media and those types of things. It's going to be more of a manager or above.
So why does that individual, like, why do they need this, right? It looks cool. It sounds cool. But why do they actually need this? Is it streamlining their workflow? Is it organization? Is it actually helping them increase ROI? Is it all of the above? And how, right?
Yeah, so it would ultimately help them improve ROI if they could make better decisions. And so ultimately the problem is leads come through all these different channels. They all end up inside of the CRM. Sales picks up that lead and does something with it. And you've got all these different tools that have their different attribution models and different things, but it all ends up being fragmented. For me to build a report and actually tell the customer story, I've got to look at Google Analytics data. I've got to look at Facebook data. I've got to look at LinkedIn data. I've got to look at the CRM, and I have to try to piece. So this is sort of where the mosaic comes in. I have to create a puzzle. It's a puzzle to the marketer. And now I have to, once I put those pieces together, hopefully tell a story to whether it's my customer or whether it's leadership, what's actually happening with their money. And so what Lead Mosaic does is it paints that picture for you. It automates that process. It saves you time in building those reports, going after and getting all that data, that we connect with all those systems to bring that data together into a central place that says, hey, I spent $20,000 in Google advertising. This is how many customers and how much revenue I got out of it. Or this is how much revenue is in the pipeline inside of Salesforce.
Quick question. So you said this came to you in a dream, right? So weird dreams, by the way. But
it's a marketer.
I'm guessing that because from what little I know about dreams, I took Psych 101, but they are a reflection typically or a valve for the conscious mind to release anxiety, right? So what do you think, if you can recall that week, what do you think was going on that week at work that you're like, oh, I got to figure a way out of this mess, and then your mind just dreamt it up?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what I was just talking about, where a client is spending money, say it's $7,000 a month in advertising, and you're getting on a phone call with them and they say, hey, it doesn't seem like things are working. Man, this time last year, I had twice as many leads as I had this year. In the big picture, what you don't see is the fact that you have half as many this year than you did last year may not have anything to do with the advertising. It could be market related. Maybe the market's down right now. It could be a completely different channel that's the problem. So as marketers, we have to go figure out how to solve these problems when it comes to data and meeting the needs, expectations, KPIs that either leadership or a customer puts on us. And we want better answers. We don't want to be guessing. And unfortunately, to figure out that story, we have to go to all these different platforms, bring data together, and then try to come up with a potential hypothesis or analysis of what's truly happening without all the insight ready for us in one central place, with the help of some AI that can look a bit deeper, maybe do some market research and those types of things to help us understand what might actually be happening right now.
One quick follow-up to that I'll turn it over to you, Josh. So describe the feeling of going into that meeting and the client asks you that, and you don't have enough tabs open because he asked for the one thing that you forgot to pull up, and that's on a dashboard, and now I got to open it. Just describe that feeling of why, again, this would cause you enough anxiety to dream about it.
Yeah, it is anxiety. It's a little pit, in your stomach, and you feel inadequate, I would say. It's like they're coming to you for these answers, and you don't have that answer for them. And you want the answer. The worst, in your head, you feel like the worst thing you could say to them is, I don't know. But actually, sometimes that's the best thing to say. I don't know. We've got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But I'd rather not say I don't know. I'd rather have the answers so that we can make smart decisions and then know what's working and what's not, so they can invest in the right places and ultimately grow their business. Because marketing should be an investment, not an expense.
I like that. Sorry, I'm taking notes here, like the old-fashioned way. I'm filling up a notebook.
Good. Well, I feel like we're starting to get to the why, and obviously we should note that this typically takes hours, days, weeks, because we would want to go then, interview a bunch of other people. But we're going to, for the sake of
talk about that real quick, Tom. We'd interview stakeholders.
Yep.
Talk about that process real quick. And Josh, I know you do something very similar.
So let's imagine this is a mature brand and not just an idea. We would interview the founder at any key leadership in probably one meeting. Then we'd want to go, okay, we now know what the boardroom thinks, but that's probably somewhat divorced from reality. So let's go talk to the sales and service people. The salespeople are going to tell us what clicks when they make a sale or what the buying objections are. So now we can start to understand, how do we message this to overcome objectives and lean into motivators. Then I want to talk to the service people, because they're the ones that get all the complaints, but they're also the ones that get all the attaboys and 5-star reviews. So what impression are we making on these people? They come to us and say, you've changed my life. This is incredible. I used to have anxiety and feelings of inadequacy, and now I'm a champion. I walk in this room proudly and I'm like, bring it on. And I only have to have one browser window open. No tabs, one. That feels pretty cool. So now I would start to orient my messaging around, and then I'd want to talk to the people who have already purchased the product to hear directly from them. What was life like before you bought it? How did it change your life? And tell me what life's like now. If we can do that, then we can remap it and message to those people who are outside of the storytelling funnel because they're unaware. They just know they have a problem. They might not even know that there's a category of solution that even would solve this problem. So they're not looking for it, right? So anyways, that's what I would do. So,
right.
Sorry, Josh, over to you.
So this is what happens when the business owner themselves writes the ad copy.
Yep.
They write it from their point of view. This is written from my point of view.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, if you were to do like, the traditional, like, what's your elevator pitch? This is fine, right? Like, you're talking to somebody trying to explain like business to business. You're explaining the idea, all in one lead journey intelligence platform that helps you track leads, score intent, yada yada yada. Cool. That works as an elevator pitch to an extent. But when we're doing something like this, where we're actually trying to take somebody who has zero awareness of this, and you're not there to explain the details to them, and then we walk them through this process of not just storytelling, but like understanding the brand and the value that you bring to the table, that's where like this needs to shift. One, we need to actually talk to them, not just explain what the concept is, but actually speak to them. And then, as Tom was saying, a lot of this depends on both key stakeholders and current users. What do the users find beneficial about this, and how do we speak to those benefits? But if I was taking something like this and we were starting to ideate some headlines that would work, obviously we don't want to get too wordy, but can we focus more on, clarity, the customer, understanding the customer journey, providing clarity. And I like that boost conversions or increase revenue or whatever, because it's an outcome, assuming we can point to that, that's an outcome that can be derived from all of this. So is it something like, understand your customer journey with ultimate clarity? Okay, now we're starting to talk about, what they're going to get from this. And then we can piggyback on that with track leads, score intent, visualize funnels, boost conversions, etc. Or increase revenue through smarter journeys, right? Or it's like, let's talk big picture, then we can get into the fact that you're an all-in-one platform that does all these things. You know what I mean? Understand your customer. Yeah. So again, like Tom said, we got to workshop these a little bit, but like something along those lines.
That's what we're doing. So Tom, what are your thoughts here?
I was going to say, until you started typing over what you had, it's almost like you could demote everything you had one level.
Totally.
Like bring it all down here.
The all-in-one solution or whatever it said is your how. That would go where track leads and blah, blah, blah goes, because that's what it does, right? All-in-one is how. And I can't remember everything you set up there. I don't know if you could control Z and go back, or control Y, whatever it is.
Yeah, so you're saying this goes down here.
Yeah.
It does what one of the other examples does. It's how language that hints at the what, right? So I like journey intelligence is more, maybe even better than tracking leads. The tracking leads is what it does, but let me propose. I love what Josh did, so I think you'd already be better off. Let me just maybe suggest an alternate approach that just leans entirely into why and doesn't even bring up the what, doesn't even hint at it. Going back to this anxiety where you felt like you had these feelings of inadequacy and you're scared that somebody's going to ask you a question to justify ROI. Again, I would need to workshop this. This is just spitballing, but all the data you need to justify your marketing spend in a single browser window. I think that delivers how you alleviate the pain, and it shows them what the other side could look like.
Wait, all that needs to justify your spend.
Marketing spend, maybe. In a single browser window.
And
now, is it perfect? No. But what I tried to do is capture what you told me was the thing that was motivating you to invent this company that didn't exist, because you can't live. I always ask my clients, what happened to what was the trigger that you said, I can't live like this anymore, I got to find a better way? That's what we want to capture, so that when that next customer comes and lands on this website, even if they don't understand how it works yet, that we've articulated, we know the pain you're experiencing, and guess what, we invented something to make that go away. How does that sound? Well, that sounds
Yeah,
really
and you,
good.
you
What
could
is
almost have a visual here with maybe even a video too that shows like what it's normally like, and you're flipping through dashboards and Looker Studio stuff, and then a one browser window of this platform where everything's right there, right?
something like that? Yep.
Yeah.
And then I love what Josh had up here. Maybe that's even the better how. Maybe that's but anyways.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I like
that
this.
was to like understand your customer journey with ultimate clarity, and then you could almost do something like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So I think what Tom's nailing here is like this awareness section should be this like highly aspirational. It can be kind of like big picture, big statement. That's why I think something like this, like all in one window, or whether it's focusing on revenue, like increasing that revenue, or one of the examples I had in my sort of arsenal here was Stripe, which their lead in is financial infrastructure to grow your revenue, right? So they're not getting into, well, we're a payment processor and we accept, however many different kinds of cards internationally across however many, like all of that is for later on in the storytelling. Their big picture is just, you're going to be able to increase revenue with the best infrastructure there is. And so I love this. Maybe we play on what Tom's saying. And again, this is all part of that workshopping, because there's this healthy balance of the right words here with also the right visual length. Because if we could probably get the right verbiage, but like this going to what is that, 5 lines? Like that feels a little heavy, right? So then we start playing with the design aspect of it, making it feel like it can breathe more. But do we go down a path of like, okay, so justify, is that like peace of mind? Do we say like peace of mind, marketing peace of mind all in one window, or like something along those lines, where it's like this short, snappy statement could work as that elevator pitch in more of an edgy way, and then we can start explaining it further as the person goes down the page. We want to make sure that they know why they're here and that they're in the right place, and then we have the rest of the page to explain the how and the why and the what to them even further, right?
Exactly. Could I just jump in a quick little sidebar on elevator pitches, because I think that's valuable. I a student of Sandler sales training, and the problem with, I think you guys would recognize this with elevator pitches, is people wordsmith them to death to the point that nobody actually uses them in the real world because they can't memorize them. They're too rote. It's just like, so I was taught this awesome way of doing it, and it's called DYK. I help with that. The DYK part is you always start your elevator pitch, and I'll use this as an example. You're a performance marketer? Curtis says yes. Oh, do you know how like when you're trying to create a report for a client and it's not a single tool, you got to grab from like 10 billion tools. You got 32 tabs open. The client asks you a question. You're like, oh, what window is that? You feel like a dork because you don't have the answer, but you do have the answer. You just got to find it. You don't know where to find it. You know that feeling of anxiety you get when you're in those meetings? Curtis would say yes. I help with that. Yeah. Boom. Now I'm listening, because you just said, oh, wait, you make that go away. So I think you apply that to, because it's easy to remember that type of language because you're just describing a problem that I just made it up. And but it's also it captures, it doesn't sound like a sales pitch. It's like I'm really explaining to you what I do in words that anyone could understand. So I think if you apply that methodology to marketing copy, I think there's something to that as well.
I totally agree. I love that. DYK.
I help with that. So I know we got to wrap up. I'm hoping, Tom, I could show one quick thing here. So you guys are the experts, but could I pit you up against AI and see how well AI
man
did?
Against machine.
Let's do it.
Yes, but if we lose, I reserve the right to edit this part out of the podcast.
No,
only the live people will know.
That's right. Yeah. As you're pulling that up, I think this is a great example, depending on, we'll see how this goes, right? But I think this is a great example of, well, can you train a model on, this is what, our methods for storytelling are, and then you get 5 versions of a headline that we could kind of workshop. And it speeds up this process that Tom and I are saying, oh, it might take, X amount of days or X amount of hours to come up with the right headline. Well, I think we're onto something now. So could we just get through AI some directional headlines that we can then workshop a little bit faster. I think there's this like ebb and flow of what we do and how we can leverage AI to speed up that process. So anyway.
No, 100%. Yeah. And I gave AI really the same information, you had, Tom and Josh, you guys had access to. I built the sort of company concept and gave it to AI. We built a website that didn't approach things the way we recommend, the way a lot of companies do, leading with the what's. And then I said, okay, let's reposition it with our frameworks. Now it leaned into, I like where you went, Tom, which is interesting. You went more for the emotional feeling, the anxiety.
I'm not a robot. I am not a robot.
AI took confusion, so which isn't really a feeling. I mean, so it was like thinking more of the chaos that exists with the data. And so, so clarity, confusion, it more used those words than maybe emotional words in the copy, which I could see a big difference there, because while this might resonate, it maybe doesn't resonate at the same level as I might have where you actually press a button at an emotional level with the potential consumer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
and I actually like this headline. What I like about it is what most clients wouldn't like about it, because it doesn't say what we do.
Yeah.
And I try to push back on that. People are going to know what you do by the time they get to the website. What they want to know is why they should care, right?
Yes.
So they just didn't happen on your website, right? Like you turn to the TV station back in the day and you're flipping, oh, I wonder what's on NBC. No, they got there because either you sent them there or they went looking for you. So I would even turn, my question is it strong enough, to your point, Curtis? Is this the emotional, confusion is what's motivating the confusion? I like turn chaos into confidence actually. That's better.
Literally, I got that in my notes here. It's so I think piggybacking on what you're saying, Tom, so I agree that we don't need to be literal. We don't need to explain. People can figure that part out. I do think there's an element of establishing, it's what I call positioning in the hero, where it's like, we do want people to know, like, if you were here without context, to your point, not a lot of people are doing that, but if you're here without context, is this like therapy? Like, I don't know, confusion into confidence? Like, what kind of tool am I looking at? So do we say something like, marketing chaos to ROI confidence, or so, like something where it's like, it just helps. Maybe we don't even need to be that specific, but it helps sort of establish the industry and the tool that we're addressing, but using sort of these big picture ideas of like, we can provide confidence for chaos, right? Or solutions for that chaos. But I don't hate this at all, right? Like, this is that big, sort of abstract, very confident idea, confusion to confidence.
One possible solution, I know we're not going to solve this today, but if you just had turned lead tracking chaos into confidence, then you've done what you're suggesting.
Yeah. Now I turn lead tracking chaos into confidence. I see where you're going. Yeah.
You know what's funny is I typically, when I'm rewriting copy for clients, they say rewrite our website. When I get down to the what level, by the way, like where you are now, I almost never change anything, because they've got the what's fully understood. Right. Now, if they're speaking over the prospect's head, then I'm going to say you have to, speak in their language, change your tone or whatever. But usually they know that down. What they can't articulate is why anyone should care. So it's funny. Once we get past the how, my eyes start glazing over. I'm like, you got it.
Well, and one thing that I typically do, and Curtis, you're aware of this, like it's part of sort of my structure and how I do storytelling, but I would love to, before you get into that how it works section, which has a lot of the features in it, which I think is great, right? The lead funnel visualizer, smart lead scoring, et cetera. But before we get into that green section down there, let's break it up with just like a short, maybe it's 3 or 4 item summary right above that is like those outcome benefits. So the things that like we talked about on the previous homepage.
I kind of had something here, but I never really flushed this out at the very bottom. So you're saying like, get these outcome based type things up here.
Yeah, like on the previous homepage, that sentence you had said something like track leads, score intent, visualize funnels. What if we sort of, again, keep it simple. It should fit just like those percentages you just had. It should fit very simply. It's just something for your eye to catch as you're scrolling through. But let's summarize those benefits or the way the tool can be used. So do we say something like, enhanced lead tracking or clarity in lead tracking, a more efficient way to score intense? Like, that might be a little wordy, but it's like, can we hit those at almost like bullet points before we get into how it works? Because now I'm saying we're going to provide confidence for your lead gen chaos, right? So your customer journey chaos has confidence. How do we do that? With better lead tracking, better intent scoring, better visualizing of your funnels. And that's sort of like just the bullet points. Then we get into features, which is kind of what this section is here. Finally, clarity at every stage with the lead funnel visualizer, smart scoring, AI powered, et cetera, et cetera. And you get into more of like the actual tool set and what it does, right?
And I got one final recommendation, because Josh was spot on when he said, like, elevate the social proof. As long as you're making up these testimonials, Curtis, let's make one up that tells the story that you told us. And maybe you've got a picture of a fake person there that doesn't look fake, hopefully, but they say something like, I used to dread going into metrics reportings meetings. Now I can't wait. Curtis Hayes, senior digital marketer, Kaleidoscope. So social proof, and it's like telling that story you told me in 12 words. So,
yep.
Anyways,
Boom.
That's the trick. Easy.
Boom. All right. I think you guys did better than AI. Though AI seemed to help. And I'll say I built this brand with AI, including the website and the logo and the images. It was probably 2 hours.
No, that's all.
Yep.
Again, I think it is incredible for speeding up the process. And especially like once you have a methodology like Tom does, like I do, like you do for building and structuring these things, there's no reason that we need to spend an hour trying to workshop a headline when you could be like, here's kind of the vein I'm thinking. Let's get 15 headlines back and then workshop those together to form the perfect one, right? So I think it's an incredible tool in the toolbox to help speed up the process of, what we're already doing.
Yep. Agreed. And we all use AI. I think the moral of the story, at least at this point, is AI will get you pretty darn close. It's up to you to get it over the finish line, though. And that was not the finish line, right? Confidence we all thought wasn't quite exactly what you were trying to convey. So, but it got us onto something. We're like, oh yeah. Right. So anyways, that was fun. Do we keep our jobs, Curtis, or are you outsourcing now to AI?
No, you guys get to stay.
Awesome,
you guys get to stay.
Awesome.
I need you. But more importantly, I think that I want prospects or existing customers to watch this, because I think it's a good understanding. I think you get maybe a little bit of tunnel vision or concern when somebody's picking apart your own brand. Right. There's actually a little bit of anxiety when you're saying you're not quite explaining your product the way you should to your customer base. It's like, nobody knows it better than me. What do you mean you're telling me I'm not explaining it right? And what we're saying is, no, that just reframing it and repositioning it in a different way, because you're so close to it, because it's your baby.
Yep.
Let us think about it from the customer's perspective. Let's hear from the customers. And then let's position it to go and find more people like them. And your tendency is going to make yourself the hero. Let us make your customer the hero. And then you'll be the hero by making your customers be the hero, right?
Yeah.
Well said.
That's what I get out of it. I don't know. Any final thoughts from you, Josh? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think what we did here today, this is like the first step to, I think something to keep in mind is we're talking right now about the storytelling on the homepage, which I do think is some of the most important, because that's typically your first inbound page. It's your front door. But then I typically call sort of that bottom section that we didn't even really address today. That's your springboard. That's what takes people deeper into the site to the various aspects. So you might have a page for lead funnel visualizer that talks about that specific feature. And if that's what resonates with Josh when he visits the site, I springboard right from the homepage to the lead funnel visualizer. And so we really need to think about how the story we're telling on the homepage daisy chains into all the internal pages of the site. And then that gets into like the navigation should function as a funnel as well. That takes us from the home page to what matters next. Is it solutions or is it about? Do people care about you or do they care about the solutions they get? Then we go into pricing and then we go into a conversion page. So it's all of these things need to work hand in hand. So we just sort of, in our, what was this, about an hour, we just sort of scratched the surface here of what would typically go into a redesign, the storytelling, the branding, the voice, the tone, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to do now after the fact, but I do think we made some good progress here in sort of defining what lead Mosaic is and how we talk to the customer with more clarity.
Close us out, Tom. What are your
My final
thoughts?
thought is why, how, what? Ask for it by name. See you next time on Bullhorns and Bullseyes.